So today we'll do two suttas which are interconnected. SD 47.2 brackets 3a 3b. They are related. They're about sila, moral virtue. It's about our basic practice as Buddhists. Now, occasionally I remind my students, when we study the suttas, we're actually studying the same thing. We're studying the Buddha's teaching. It's like you have your regular exercise, your regular workout for your health. You don't say, oh, I've done jogging, so I don't need to do jogging anymore my whole life. Or I've done this kind of exercise or that kind of exercise, I don't need to do it anymore. Exercise, by the very term, means you do it regularly, you do it again and again, you do it often for your health. So we study the suttas in the same way, over and over, for our spiritual health. If you do not have a love for the sutta, in other words, you don't have this feeling for becoming a better person, basically, you want to be happy, really happy, not just happy with things, but being happy. Not having happiness, but being happy. And this is very important to distinguish these two ideas. Most people think in terms of happiness as having this, having that. Now, once you use the word have, it is a disjunctive kind of conjunction, it's a disjunctive kind of arrangement. In other words, when you have something, it is separated from you. You don't own it. Whenever you say, I have, it's always something out there, okay? I have a bottle of water here. I have a house, I have friends. And so they're kind of different from me, away from me. You don't normally say, I have happiness, I mean, it just doesn't sound very right. You say, I am happy. I am feeling this, I am feeling that. So when you say I am, it means you experience that thing inside you. So this idea of being, in this sense, is very important. That's what meditation is about. So when you do breath meditation, for example, you feel calm. That means you are calm. We can, of course, say that you have mental focus, if you like, but again, we're talking about an experiential situation here. You experience this peace. In meditation, we let go of the senses so that the mind is free all by itself. It is enjoying itself. It is on its own, so to speak. It's kind of resting and it's very happy, so to speak. All right? And same thing with the precepts. Moral virtue. Again, you don't say, I have moral virtue. Normally we would say, I am morally virtuous. Right? So we can say all these things. But then again, we have to be very careful when we use this verb to be, is, especially when it comes to something negative. Right? It is wrong to say that, oh, I am wrong. Okay? Again, language being what it is, we do accept when you say I am wrong, when you tell someone, okay, I'm wrong here, right? So you condition it by limiting it to time and space. If you say I am wrong, the meaning is that you're wrong your whole life, right? These five aggregates are wrong. So this is called conditioned language. We say I'm wrong in this case, okay? When it comes to this teaching, I don't understand it, something like that. So you got to limit. Language limits our expression. That is why in meditation we let go of language. We let go of expressing our mind in language terms. We want to experience this mind totally free and happy and bright because this kind of mind is able to bring wisdom. This kind of mind is able to see beyond the self, to see the world as it is. Early Buddhism often talks about the world as it is, true reality. So we have this world out there, right? You have tables, chairs, buildings, air out there. Of course, there is this very big, deep philosophical problems, whether those things out there really exist or not. It doesn't matter in early Buddhism. Important thing is this table is here. You, no matter how much philosophy you use, if you walk into the table, you get hurt. So the table is there, and we call it earth element. But that's not a very helpful truth beyond its physical reality. What in Buddhism we learn is, what do you think of this table? Right? What happens when you talk about this table? For example, if you come here when there's no class and you look at this table, you say, oh, okay, we have sutta study. So you relate this table to something happy, sutta study, and so on. So things out there, being what they are, have no meaning. We put meaning onto it. Meaning means what happened between you and this table, so to speak, right? So we put in this meaning to all the things we experience in life, so to speak. And so we have to understand what sort of meaning do we put into these things. And number two, why, right? So because our happiness depends on how we do this. How we look at someone and we say, oh, I like this guy, well, that's fine. But if you say, I don't like this guy, then you've got to find out why, for example. Or I don't care about this guy, then again, you've got to find out why. So this why is finding out the causes and the conditions. Right? So it goes on like that. You question yourself, and the more you question yourself, the more your mind directs itself to look for answers, to look for wisdom. Wisdom is the understanding with what goes on in your mind when you experience something out there and how you relate to it. That's one way of putting it. So true reality is that whatever you experience out there, they are on their own. They are neither good nor bad. So don't blame anything out there for causing you suffering. Right? For example, we say, oh, this guy is bad, he caused me suffering. That may be possible. I mean, people can say something which makes you unhappy, but the point to remember is you have a choice to be happy or not. Imagine a very simple situation. You are by nature a happy person. By nature means you have been practicing meditation, you know the precepts, you're a Buddhist, you know lots of Buddhist stories, you know the suttas, and you are just happy. You have wisdom, of course, because you understand the suttas. So no matter what people say to you, no matter what you see out there, you know that's the world. So you're not going to be affected in a negative way by what people say to you. Whether people say, oh, you are wonderful, or you are not wonderful, or I like your work, or I don't like your work, or I like you, I don't like you, it doesn't matter to you. You just say, well, that's fine, yes, thank you. You know those are the 8 winds. The people who praise you one day say nasty things about you. What you get, you will lose. You are happy one day, and then you are sad another day, or it goes back and forth. And sometimes you are famous, sometimes you are not. You get praised, you get blamed. All these 8 winds blow you hither and thither, here and there, right? So if you are happy inside by yourself, for yourself, in yourself, then you're not bothered by this world out there. So this is one way we try to develop ourselves as Buddhists. In a simple way of saying this is self-reliance. If you rely on yourself, then you don't need other people to make you happy. This is a very important teaching. And this is symbolized by the Buddha sitting alone, meditating, smiling, radiant. You always see the picture of the Buddha happy, smiling. And very often these artists, traditional artists, they will choose the handsomest face they can think of in that culture, and they will use this beautiful image, beautiful face on this Buddha image to give a sense of peace. Right, so today we're going to look at a special aspect of this process of being happy for ourselves, and that is the practice of moral virtue. Okay, so today's sutta, page 2929, that is SD 47.2 brackets 3a, Asapurisa Sutta 2, Dutiya Asapurisa Sutta, the second discourse on the false individual. This is from Sangyutta S42.26. 45, sorry, S45.26. And later we will study this in connection with the next sutta, 3b. 3b is the Sapurisa Sikha Pada Sutta. This is A4.201. So the first sutta is from Sangyutta and the second sutta is from Anguttara. So you find they are from two different collections. The Sangyutta suttas tend to be more focused on meditation, on the nature of the mind, calmness of mind. Anguttara focus more on lay practice, so you find lots of teaching on moral virtue and so on, layman happiness, but they're kind of connected. Now, as I mentioned earlier, when we study Buddhism, we often go back to the basic teachings. What are the basic teachings? Right? So the sutta starts on page 40, the translation. The basic teachings are, we call the three trainings: Sila, Samadhi, Panya. Okay? These are trainings. In other words, they are not yet awakening. Okay? So you have, the first training is called training in moral virtue. Second training in mental concentration, samadhi. Sometimes scholars don't translate the word, they use samadhi, which is found in English dictionaries. And the third training is that of wisdom. To be more specific, insight wisdom, a liberating kind of wisdom. So there you are. These are the three basic trainings. Why are these three given in that way, in that sequence? These are some of the basic questions I often ask myself. For example, why are the 5 precepts arranged 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Why are the 3 trainings arranged 1, 2, 3? Okay, so it's arranged in the 1, 2, 3 sila first, moral virtue first, because we begin our Buddhist training with understanding the nature of our body. So if we look at the precepts, the 5 precepts, okay, you have the first precept is against killing. Obviously, it's about life, right? And you have heard before I mentioned life is of the greatest value. I mean, you don't need religion for that. It's common sense. We respect life, we love life, so it's a universal value. So, understandably, that the Buddha accepts that. He didn't make it, but he accepts it as the first precept, because the precepts are what I call, they are of natural morality. Pakati sila. In other words, the Buddha did not introduce this. The Buddha is saying this is real, this is out there. But even then, you need the Buddha to point this out to us, to explain to us what's really out there. And this is important because other religions introduce their own ideas and in many ways their own excuses. Yes, life is precious, but you may kill life because God created it, and so on. So you find that there is a conditional kind of teaching. So it's not really a universal value. Whereas in Buddhism, life is sacred, full stop. Okay? So that's the first quality we think of when we reflect on moral virtue. This body is alive. So we have to respect this life. Because this body is our vehicle for awakening. So you got to keep this body going, keep this body, maintain this body, take care of this body. And these are the second precepts about working, being diligent, working for a living, earning our keep, so to speak, right? So that we can support ourselves, we can live honestly, diligently, compassionately. That means, compassionately means you are doing a bit more than for yourself. You're also making others live happily too. So that's the second precept against stealing, right? Because if you steal, then you are taking away all this effort that other people have honestly put in. And then you must have freedom, right? For example, we are free today to come here to study the sutta. You are free to turn on this video and listen to the Dhamma talks or sutta talk. So this third precept, the Buddha specifically select a special idea, that is the idea of sexuality. Because sexuality is what is nature's hardwire in us to keep us alive in samsara. Because without this function of sexuality, our species will die out. So there is this feeling of wanting to complete ourselves, so to speak, to have a partner and so on, and to have children especially. So this has to be done right, because often in the suttas the Buddha said, if you do not respect each other in terms of sexuality, then we become like animals. We wouldn't know whose father, whose mother, whose uncle, whose aunt, whose teachers' wives, and so on and so forth. There is no society, will be totally disorganized. There will be no society. We will be like animals, in other words. So we're talking about some kind of social organization here. So we already have some idea. The idea of moral virtue is in a sense, is mundane. There are some mundane aspects there. They make a good society possible, association of people possible. So if you look at the pyramid, moral virtue is at the bottom, this broad-based supporting mental training and wisdom, which become narrower. The pyramid narrows upwards. So the third precept is about respecting another person's person. It means accepting the other party saying no. Okay, so when someone has the right to say no, that is freedom, right? So we can say that this third precept is based on the value of freedom. And then number 4 is truth, right? All these things must be true for it to work. Then we come to number 5, which is very interesting. The 5 don't seem to fit in the nature of the precepts. It's about not getting drugged and drunk. It's got to do with the mind, right? So this 5th precept prepares us for the next step of training, mental training. Okay, so those are the 5 basic precepts. They are very important. We need to understand them. Very often we say, "Oh, I keep the 5 precepts," but you may even know what the 5 precepts are, but we have to understand what the 5 precepts is about. Right? So this is one of those studies where we examine a little closer the 5 precepts. So in this sutta, the 5 precepts are expanded a little more into the 10 kinds of unwholesome actions and 10 kinds of wholesome actions. The Pali word is akusala kamapata. Okay? Kamapata means the cause of karma. Akusala means unwholesome. Then you have 10 wholesome cause of karma. Kusala kamapata. Right? So you can translate as that the 10 wholesome karmic actions, if you like, or the 10 unwholesome karmic actions. Karma here means you act with intent. This is a bit tricky. We have to understand. I'm just going to spend a few minutes on this. Although sometimes suttas does say you act consciously, right? But there are occasions when we can act unconsciously too, and it is also karma. Maybe not as culpable, not as bad as when you do it consciously. That is why, in law you have various grades of crime, whether you do it consciously or not consciously, you plan it or you didn't plan it, and how much involved are you in it, and so on, right? So you have kind of a bit of Vinaya here, okay? But the precepts kind of lie between the Vinaya, the disciplinary rules, and the Dharma, okay? But of course, the precepts have to do more with our training in terms of Dharma, in other words, the mind. So it is possible to do something wrong unconsciously because it's become habitual, for example. Let's say a butcher, not today maybe, but long ago, a butcher would kill his own animals to sell. And he has done this killing so often that he doesn't even think about it anymore. But can you say that because he doesn't think about the killing is all right? That's not right. We know something's wrong there, right? So even though he does not do it consciously, his intention is there, okay? Well, maybe we can say, all right, he doesn't have the intention. He says, oh, I don't like this chicken, or I don't like this pig, I'm killing this, I'm full of hate, Yeah, he may not have that, yes. Of course, someone who kills with that kind of attitude, the karma is very bad, and the results will be accordingly. The person will be reborn in a suffering state, animal state, and so on. But this person will you can't kill out of love, by the way. It's impossible, okay? Because love is to see another just as you would see yourself. So you wouldn't, under normal circumstances, if you are a normal person, happy person, you won't kill yourself. So you can never hurt someone, kill someone out of love, okay? But you can do it out of delusion. This is the tricky one, okay? The third, so this you have the three unwholesome roots. Whenever we break the precepts, it's always because of greed, hate, or delusion. Now, under delusion, there are two important aspects, right? One is, of course, the deluded mind, where, in other words, we are misinformed, we misinterpret things, misunderstand things, we see what's not there. That's one. The other one is fear. We can also do out of fear, right? Sometimes you have 4 biases. 3 we call 3 unwholesome roots. If there are 4, we say the 4 biases, agati. The 4 biases are greed, hate, delusion, fear. So people can break the precepts out of fear too. People can do wrong things out of fear too, right? So those are the motivation behind breaking of precepts. A person may not be conscious of the action. That is why we have to be very careful when we are doing something and we're not aware of it, but we are still, the karma is still there. That is where wisdom comes in. That is where studying the suttas helps us. All right? So someone may say, oh, I'm doing all the right things. How come I'm still not happy? Well, obviously there's something missing. Right? Something habitual, something unconscious that we are doing. This is the tricky part. Very often it takes us a long time to uncover these hidden motives, so to speak, because they are unconscious. They are called anusaya. Anusaya literally means they sleep underneath. They lurk deep inside our unconscious. Because we have been going through this situation for so many lives, It becomes so natural that we are not even aware of it. Like suddenly we get angry, we burst out in anger, we are shocked at ourselves for doing that. It comes from deep within our unconscious. And sometimes we can even do silly things, we're not aware of it. We just follow the flow. Again, it comes from the unconscious. So that takes a lot of wisdom to go deep into our minds and discover that aspect. But that is, we have to do that. Study this very important, difficult subject another time. All right, so that's a bit of introduction to the precepts. So as I mentioned, in this sutta we can see 10 unwholesome acts. The sutta opens with that. Let's look at page 40. The second discourse on the false individual. The false individual is someone who doesn't keep the precepts. It's not a true person. S 45.26. Originating in Savatthi, there the Blessed One said, Bhikshus, I will teach you, or I will show you the false person. And one more false than the false person. I will show you the true individual, and the one more true than the true individual. All right, so the Buddha is going to talk about two pairs of person. The false person and the one more false. So you have someone who is false, someone who is more false, someone who is true, someone who is more true. So this is how the Buddha catch the attention of the audience. This is what I'm going to tell you. And I said, wow, I never heard of this one before. Right, so you know there are two parts to this sutta at least. So the Buddha begins by telling us who is this false person. And section 4. And what bhikshus is a false person? Sappurisa. Okay? Sappurisa is the true person. See, it comes from the word purisa. Purisa means person, and then you have sa in front showing this good quality of this person. I think in Chinese it's called 尊子, isn't it? 尊子. Yeah. Now here bhikshus, a certain person holds wrong views, has wrong thoughts or wrong intentions. All right, so these two, they constitute kind of wrong view, this mental aspect. And then speaks wrong speech, does wrong actions, engages in wrong livelihood. Okay, one speaks wrong speech, okay, that is speech, and then does wrong actions, that's of the body. And then you have 5, engages in wrong livelihood. All right. 1 and 2 deals with the mind, the mental karma. Then 3, 4, 5, 6, 4 of these are verbal karma. Okay? Or these are the 3 doors. So you have the body door, and then you have this speech door, and the last 2, the mind door, 7 and 8. This false person has wrong mindfulness. 8, he has wrong samadhi, wrong stillness, wrong meditation, if you like. So this is the third wrong door. Wrong mindfulness, in other words, his mind is directed to unwholesome things, negative things. Right, planning to kill someone, learning methods to kill someone, methods to steal, and so on. And then actually getting involved in it, and his mind is focused. So we can't say, this robber, he's listening to that, the safe, and it's very focused. It's like meditation. We wouldn't say that's it's not good meditation anyway. It is wrong meditation. So this is the one, number 8. All right, so the Buddha continues, this one, bhikshus, is called a false person. So a false person practices all these wrong precepts, in other words, in terms of body, speech, and mind. Okay? So very briefly, what they are: he holds wrong views, has wrong thoughts, speaks wrong speech, does wrong actions, engages in wrong livelihood, makes wrong effort, has wrong mindfulness, and has wrong samadhi. Then number 8, the Buddha said, okay, who is the one who's more false than this person? Of course, you'll be wondering, who could be more false? Is there such a person? You might be wondering, right? So Buddha's going to show us there is such a person. And then he says, okay, this person holds all these 10 wrong views, but the 2 additional ones. You look at 9 and 10, okay? 9, he has wrong knowledge or wrong understanding. And then number 10, wrong freedom. All right? Now, wrong understanding means all these 8 things is wrongly misunderstood. All right? So in other words, he understands the wrong to be right and the right to be wrong. Right? And then he doesn't have this liberation. His mind is still caught up with the world. He's still burdened with hindrances and fetters. He's still unhappy. Still rigged with greed, hate, delusion, in other words. Okay? So this person is someone who is even more false, who has greater difficulty. All right? Okay, so this is a negative person. So having looked at this person, let's look at the happy side, not the bright side. So this is called, I call this a mirror sutta, okay? Because you can neatly divide the sutta into 2 and they kind of reflect each other. And as you know, when you stand in front of a mirror, you don't get an exact image of yourself, you get an inverse image. In other words, your image is turned around, right? So you have an inverse image here. So in the first half, you have these negative qualities of a person, and then in the second half is the positive qualities. They use the same words, but in a positive way. Look at 6. And what bhikshus is a true individual. Here bhikshus, a certain person holds right views, has right thoughts. Okay, so that is to do with the mind. Has right speaks right speech, does right action, engages in right livelihood. All right, so you have this is in terms of bodily action. This is speech, verbal action. Okay. Sorry, number 3 is speech. Okay, that is with speech, and then action. All right, and then. Livelihood, that is to do with action, and then effort, mindfulness, samadhi, to do with the mind. Okay, so this person is called a true individual. By now we know already what the Buddha is going to say. Who is the person who is even more true, a little bit more advanced? He has all these 10 wonderful qualities, the 10 wholesome karma. Then he has number 9, he has right wisdom. Okay, you can use the word wisdom or knowledge if you like. The Pali word is jnana. Jnana, you can translate as knowledge, understanding. Okay, he understands all these teachings, and then he is liberated. In other words, he reaches the path, and his understanding becomes realization. So that is someone even more true than the true individual. So here we're talking about someone who understands the Dhamma, say a normal person who comes, study the sutta, say, okay, yes, we try to keep the precepts, we understand the teaching, but we have not attained any level yet. We have not even attained stream winning yet. We have not even aspired to it, right? So we see another effort here by the Buddha reminding us, don't stop here. Move on. Build up your training. Do not think that just because you know the theory of the suttas, that's enough, because we will forget. The world will encroach on us. All the years of learning, we will forget. And we always blame the teacher for that. We say, oh, the teacher is not a good one because I forget. So the teacher has nothing to do with your forgetting, right? The teacher tries to help you to remember. So the point is, we need to be reminded, we need to remind ourselves. That is why the Buddha constantly reminds us to not rely on the teacher, because you will forget. You must rely on yourself. When you rely on yourself, means you go straight to the Dhamma. You reflect on the Dhamma itself. That way you won't forget. If you forget, then you know you have forgotten. To the extent you're wise, then you look for that answer. Now, this is the process in modern psychology called neuroplasticity. It sounds very big, but what does it mean? It means when you forget, you go back to the source and find out again. So you make the new link, you remember again. So our brain's also like that, okay? As we grow older, that means 50 and above, you find there is this tendency that we forget things. So don't give in to this and say, well, I'm past 50, I'm going to forget things. That is giving up, right? So you got to make an effort. The moment you forget, you sit quietly, okay, I know this, but now I can't find the link. Now, one method that often works is just to totally forget all those things for a while. Maybe do your breathing exercise, or just think something happy, metta, and then come back to find out what is it you want to remember, and it will come back. That's all. In other words, that information is still in your head, so to speak, in your brain, but no link. The spark plugs do not spark, right? So the link is broken. The old link is broken in the brain, so to speak. So you got to make a new link, right? So this is neuroplasticity. Anyway, now they explain in physical terms, so to speak. So this is called diligence in early Buddhism. You make that effort, you re-link, you reconnect with that thing you've forgotten. And that is wisdom. You remember it again. So, now, of course, there is a danger here that you think because you remember the suttas very well, the teachings very well, that you're already awakened. Again, that's not true. Okay. When I was young, I had this friend who was not very nice guy. He is able to chant very nice. He's got good memory. He's an actor. So he says, I can chant better than you, and you only know the suttas. I said, okay. So, he's useful. If I forget, I can ask him things. But then he doesn't understand what he's reciting. You might also have a tape recorder, you see. So, again, he has pride. So that is not very helpful. So we can know something, but we do not have the last two aspects, that liberation aspect, liberative aspect is not there. So, okay, I think that kind of suffices us to understand the nature of the precepts, that we should not only practice it, but also it helps us to free our minds. So if we look at the last two aspects, 9, 10, they are the liberative aspects of moral virtue. In a sense, if you like, you can say number 9 is something like a shorthand for mental cultivation, bringing in wisdom. And then number 10, you reach the path, you're free. Okay? So this is the teaching of the second discourse on the false individual. Actually also talks about the true individual. This is the Dutiya Asapurisa Sutta as 45.26. Now the next sutta on page 42, 3b, Sapurisa Sikkhapada Sutta, the discourse on the training steps, or steps of training of the true individual, A4.201. Here you have similar subject matter, but presented in a slightly different way. By the way, there are lots of other embedded suttas which you can read on your own. There are thousands of suttas, many of them are short suttas, and they're connected to each other. And it's amazing how they connect, how the Buddha is able to give different aspects of the teaching. The translation is on page 52. The discourse on the training steps of the true individual, A4.201. First, the Buddha talks about the two kinds of persons. Section 1. Bhikshus, I will teach you the false person and the one more false than the false person. I will show you the true individual and the one more true than the true individual. So notice that this theme is same as the previous sutta. False person, more false person. True person, truer person. Listen to it, pay close attention, I will speak. Yes, Bhante, the monks replied to the Blessed One in essence. The Blessed One said this: and what, bhikshus, is a false person, asapurisa? Here, bhikshus, a certain person destroys living beings, takes the not given, commits sexual misconduct, speaks falsehood, and takes strong drinks, distilled drinks, fermented drinks, which causes heedlessness. This bhikshus is called a false person, right? So here it's quite straightforward. Someone who habitually breaks the 5 precepts. Now I like to stress the word habitually. Okay? In other words, this person has no compunction, has no fear. You say, well, why should we bother about all this? No? We are free, we can do what we like, that kind of idea. Okay? But that has got its results. I mean, it causes pain and suffering in others. So this false person habitually breaks the 5 precepts, right? Then number 3. And what bhikshus is one more false than a false person? Here, bhikshus, a certain person destroys beings, or destroys life if you like. He does it himself, okay? And causes others to destroy living beings. Okay, so this is the part that makes him even more false. In other words, worse than the one who doesn't keep the precepts. This person encourages others to do the same. He kills, he encourages others to kill. All right? Right, we are on page 52, 5.2. Then the section 3. Now then the second precept. He takes the not given himself and causes others or induces others to take the not given. So he steals and he encourages others to steal also. Number 3, he commits sexual misconduct himself and causes others to commit sexual misconduct. So he does it and also makes other people do it. Number 4, he speaks falsehood and causes others to speak falsehood too. Okay. Number 5, he takes strong drinks, distilled drinks, fermented drinks, and which cause heedlessness, and causes others to do the same. All right. So this kind of person is called someone more false than the false person. Okay, here you have someone breaks the precepts and make others break the precepts too. Now there is a third aspect here. The third aspect, sometimes mentioned elsewhere, is that this false person also approves of the action. Because sometimes he may not encourage someone else to break the precept, but he say, oh, that's okay, there's nothing wrong, it's a free country, and so on and so forth. So that completes him as a very false person, or even the most false person, if you like, who approves of such immoral actions. That is why a serious informed Buddhist is very careful about simply answering questions. For example, someone may ask, don't you think euthanasia, should be legalized? Well, these are very difficult issues, so we can't just in one sentence, or one line, is just say, yeah, why not, So we have to consider the consequences. Of course, if you just answer, just coffee talk, maybe it's not too bad, but there are occasions when some of this, whatever you say, has repercussions, because people may say, oh, I heard my friend said this, and then it influences him. So don't assume that just a passing remark that you make may not have consequences. It does. Sometimes one small thing that you say can stay with a person, and in due course changes the person's life even. So we don't know these things, because words are very powerful. All right, so this is the false person who breaks the precept habitually. Then you have the one who's more false. He encourages others to do it too. So here you see the social aspect of Buddhism. So early Buddhism doesn't talk about me alone or just one person. There is also this idea that other people are involved, and we have a responsibility to encourage them to be good people, to morally virtuous beings too. So now you can understand the second part, the true individual. And what bhikshus is the true individual, sappurisa. Here bhikshus, a certain person refrains from destroying living beings, refrains from taking the not given, refrains from committing sexual misconduct, refrains from speaking falsehood, and refrains from taking strong drinks, distilled drinks, fermented drinks, which cause heedlessness. This bhikshus is called a true individual, right? Someone who keeps the precepts is a true individual. Now, so this covers basically any good Buddhist, if you notice, let's say on the precept day, right? So if you keep the precepts, you are a true individual to that extent. Remember, all these terms, they are not a lifelong title, okay? Like Datuk Ship or whatever. Even Datuk Ship can be taken away when you fall from favor. It refers to your actions. To the extent that you keep your precepts, you are a true individual. And it's important to remember this, because when you remember this fact, this reality, it empowers you to continue to be that kind of person on another occasion. Like when you're going to do meditation, right? So if you're going to do meditation, obviously you want to remember the precepts that you have been keeping, and that is called sila nusati, recollection on moral virtue. Now the last part, section 5. And what bhikshus is called one who is more true than the true individual? Look at the Pali word, sappurisa tara. This tara means more, okay, sappurisa tara. Then you have the most, most will be uttama, sappurisa tama, okay. Now here bhikshus, a certain person refrains from destroying living beings and causes others to refrain from destroying living beings too, right? So we keep the precepts, we encourage others to keep the precepts too. He refrains from taking the not given and causes others to refrain from taking the not given too. You can add the word too if you like. He refrains from committing sexual misconduct and causes others to refrain from committing sexual misconduct too. He refrains from speaking falsehood and causes others to refrain from speaking falsehood too. He refrains from taking strong drinks, distilled drinks, fermented drinks, which causes heedlessness, and causes others to refrain in the same way. Right? This bhikshus is called one more true than the true individual. Right? So the true individual, he keeps it by himself. So to that extent, he's a good guy. But if he's really compassionate and wise, he would encourage others to do the same. So here we can add other teachings like compassion, wisdom, right? So you see, in other words, the Buddha is talking about our social responsibility. This is part of what we should understand as called the Great Commission, Mahacharika, Vinaya 121, I think, where the Buddha sent forth the 60 monks. Go forth, O monks. Teach the Dhamma to the world. There be those who will listen. And then indeed those monks went out, and by their presence, by their own goodness, they converted thousands more. So here the Buddha is saying each of us must perform, must respond to the Great Commission. You are committed, you are commissioned with that action to tell others it's good to keep the precepts. It's not good to kill, right? By saying that, you fulfill this wonderful mission. So do not underestimate your ability to teach the Dhamma. A simple statement by telling people, be happy, keep the precepts, calm your mind. And this principle has often guided me on my Facebook postings, for example. This thing which I am posting, does it help others? Even sometimes seemingly frivolous statements. I always think, okay, how can I make this into a Dhamma statement, right? So, for example, I don't take a picture of my nice bowl of roti prata and say, oh, I'm having this nice roti prata with really fantastic curry from Jurong East, Full stop. Now, that's being frivolous, okay? But if I say, you may say this roti prata is nice, and you look at it, it really looks delicious, the curry is good. But then we're all sustained by not just this physical food. There are other kinds of food, right? But mental food, we are fed by our consciousness. We are fed by our karma. We are fed by our actions and so on, right? So you begin to understand, wow, there are other meaning of food. So next time you see roti prata, you remember, hopefully, so the roti prata becomes an occasion for knowing the Dhamma, right? So that's another way of teaching the Dhamma in context. Recently, you have this tragic death of Aloysius Pang. It was really sad for someone so young, only 28 years old, to die. He's a soldier, and he died in line of action. Everybody felt very sad. So I found this beautiful poem about a soldier, written by a soldier. He says, well, I'm a soldier, I'm going to die, so tell my parents not to feel sad about it. That's the way soldiers are, and so on. So I said, wow, this is really moving. So I took that and I said, this will capture people's heart, the reader's heart. But then there are also other messages that are written there. They say, you can never know when life will end. So we have to treat those who are alive today with that love and respect and kindness, because we can never know when they will not be with us anymore, right? So we should not just mourn the death of someone so young, but this is a serious lesson for us to remember, how have we treated this person who has passed on? So we should treat the living well, with respect, with love. So when the person passes on, we say, well, I've loved this person. And then in the next life, you connect again beautifully with good karma, right? So this is the teaching on karma, on good action, on right action, on the true individual. Okay, so I've shown you the connection with the two suttas. And any feedback or questions? Do remember when we talk of in the 3 trainings, the training of moral virtue deals with body and speech. This is the most common, our most common connection with the world and how the world affects us through body and speech. So this is called moral conduct. In Pali, it's called sila. Sila also means something like something we do by nature, okay, by our habit, sila. And when we clear up our moral virtue, we build up this wonderful, pure moral virtue, then we don't feel guilty, we don't have negative thoughts, so we can go on to the next stage, the mental aspect of our training. Of course, some of us may almost immediately react and say, but that's difficult, we all have broken precepts somehow. Well, that's true. That is why there is the sila anusati, there is this recollection of moral virtue. We recollect the time when we kept the precepts. Right now, as you're listening to this talk, right? It'd be wonderful if you make a habit of, before listening to a Dhamma talk, these are Dhamma talks, these are not just talks to entertain you or making you laugh, So you recite the precepts before you listen to this talk, or listen to the next talk. You recite the Namo Tassa and then 3 of just 5 precepts. Then when you listen mindfully, happily, you remember the teachings. During this 45 minutes or so, you have kept the precepts. At the end of it, you reflect, say, okay, I've kept all the precepts here. I'm sitting peacefully here, listening to the Dhamma. So you feel happy, you feel free, you feel spacious. This is sila anusati, right? And then you go on, may all beings be well and happy, if you like, show the inner smile, and then you go on to your breath meditation or whatever other sutta meditation you have learned, and you practice. So this is how moral virtue helps you in your meditation. Okay? Okay, anything? Yes?
Can you say that in this particular realm that we're in, there are many people who, based on the past karma, are in their current life and they have no choice but to kill. So it's not like a perfect scenario where they have a choice not to kill, but in order to survive, they have to kill.
You're talking about workers, like professional, like butchers and so on, is that?
Yeah, so their past karma actually brought them into this particular life where it makes them even harder to get out of this cycle.
Okay. So, question?
So the question is, let's say for example, we are stuck in a room with a tiger.
Oh,
so
okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so can we say that...
what do we do, huh?
Yeah, what do we do?
All right.
Because our past karma...
Sure, all right.
So I like to look at it like this, like the human is one entity and the tiger is one entity.
Yeah,
the
sure.
human, based on his knowledge and maybe wisdom, can choose to not commit anymore that karma and just sit there.
Yeah.
And the tiger, based on his past karma, being born as an animal, will just keep on killing. So,
okay.
Can we just leave it as that and just...
well, if you leave it just as that, you might get eaten up by the tiger. Yeah, so that happens. A monk recently, where was that? He went to the forest. Was it in Sri Lanka or India, I think? He was told not. He was staying in this park, you see, beautiful place. But there are certain places that there are tigers or some fierce animal. He was told never to go too far into the jungle, but he went and he was killed by a tiger. So it does happen, right? You have no control over that. You go there and it happens, right? So, of course, in that case, you should listen to the instruction not to go there, right? It's the nature of the animal to kill. But in killing, the animal does create bad karma too. You see? Because just because this is nature doesn't mean, it's not karma. It is karma. That is why the sutras often tell us that a being that is born in an animal state, it's very difficult for him to get out of that state. Very difficult, not impossible. Then you have stories, for example, of the public executioner who met Sariputta. So you meet someone very wise who is able to teach you how to deal with your mind, you have a chance of coming out of that state. So, in other words, you still have a chance of coming out of that state, even if you're a butcher. Because we are not butchers 24 hours a day. It's only when you kill that action is wrong. So, in a sense, there's no such thing as a butcher. There is only butchering. This is the Buddhist way of talking, if you like. All right? It's when he kills is wrong, but he takes care of his family and he does other things. He might even come to temple on a certain days, you see. So you have this kind of balance of good and bad karma, you see. So maybe he does dana, he does all these good practices and he's reborn happy. But there is this burden, it will come back to him. He is born good and so on, but yet he's still suffering. You say, why am I suffering? Well, because of something he did in the past as a butcher, right? So we have this mixture of karma. So our hope is, all this is we are slowly directing towards this kind of like a utopia. We hope that we will have less killing. In fact, in a way, you can see today we're less violent than before, especially with other human beings, in terms of war, for example. So we are, in a sense, heading towards a more humane kind of civilization. Now, hopefully this will build up. You see, in the future, science will teach us how to produce food which is like meat. You don't have to kill other beings and so on. So you have this kind of very difficult situation in samsara. That's the way samsara is anyway. So coming back to this topic, these are special topics where you don't get it every day. Things happen and when you get into the situation. So this butcher will say, well, what to do, I'm caught in this situation, this is all I know what to do. So the first thing he should do is try to minimize it, only does what he needs to do. Okay, he knows that very well, he doesn't enjoy the killing. In the case of the public executioner, Sariputta taught him to get rid of his guilt, because by then he was already old, retired, he stopped killing, but he felt very bad about it. So the Buddha said, you got to let go of that idea. Think of the present moment. Now you are not killing. And that helped him. Not getting awakened, but he was reborn in a happy state. Okay, so if he used that momentum, he could build up and then come out of that suffering state. So in other words, there are ways we have to create environments where this person doesn't have to be a butcher. So this is where vegetarianism will come in. You see, lots of complicated things. You have to create the right conditions. So the conditions make this person follow a certain job. Yeah, in a sense, he has no choice. Or it's very difficult for him to get out of that situation. But he can try, of course, if he wants to. Then he will have to face certain consequences, other kinds of consequences too. So I would say he needs to learn Dhamma even more. And then maybe he becomes wiser and say, I can get out of this situation maybe by learning some other occupation. So these are possible, right? So he has to decide for himself what does he need to do. First thing is minimize that negative action. Next is find some way out. That is why right livelihood is mentioned as one of the aspects. It doesn't make killing more right. It's just that it shows the difficulty, how life is precious, and we need to maintain that understanding. Okay, so we have to get together and say, how can we create this environment where no one needs to become a butcher, for example, and that's possible. These are some of those futuristic ideas. it is possible. Even you find today nobody will sensibly start a war. It'd be very foolish, Like those days, any kings who, he wants something, he just starts a war, That's terrible because the king has a right to do that. And nowadays we don't support that kind of idea. So there is a change there. You see, because otherwise someone may say, in Buddhist stories, the king is absolute, so he can do what he like and kill what he like. There was a time people talked like that. But now we said, no, that's not acceptable. So there is some change there, right? So Buddhism is reminding us there are difficult situations, but at the same time you can change things if you want. Okay?
William gave the scenario of the man meeting the tiger and what to do. My first thought was of the Jagathiya tales. If I remember correctly, where in his previous past lives, the Buddha met, was it a
tiger.
Female tiger?
Yes.
Who was hungry and had babies. So what I remember was the Buddha himself.
He gave his own body. Yeah. So that's the, in a sense, that's the ultimate sacrifice, giving up your own life, you see. But the problem is, that's the only life you have, so you can only do it once, okay? Of course, then the Buddhists may say, you're reborn, you see. But then you can't keep on doing that either. So here what it's saying is, you're reborn as a tiger is not very good. You kill humans, So the idea is to create this environment which is conducive to everyone. Okay. Any other points?
We went through these two discourses. This was my takeaway is that to walk the noble path alone is not enough because we have to attain. And going even further from that, we not only attain, we must encourage others, and we must approve others for walking the path, and probably even moving even further, we must encourage and approve of those who attain.
Yes.
That's my takeaway of this.
Yeah. You practice it, and then you encourage others to do so too. This is a social aspect of the Dhamma. There is another teaching, Sambhagya Dana, I think, where the Buddha says, if you alone give, if you alone practice charity, then you'll be wealthy. But if you do only that, then you'll be wealthy but lonely. I mean, you won't have many friends, right? So if you are wise, you also encourage others to give. And then you have a share in giving. The word is a share in giving. So you do it together, like a corporate effort, as we say. The idea is this fellowship thing. So if you do this together, you are doing something good together, then you'll be rich and as well as have many friends, something like that. The idea here, of course, is a simple, almost simplistic way of talking to normal people, to remind them that other people are important, doing things together is helpful, So it's good to encourage others also to do this good thing together. So same thing with the precepts. So the idea of you're not an island by yourself. You're not doing it alone. Anything else? Here, we'll go on to something else next time, something to do with the 5 aggregates. Okay, as the lunar year ends, we're going to welcome a new lunar year. Start with a new sutta. We celebrate this wonderful opportunity for us to know the Buddha's teaching directly from the suttas preserved to us for so long, and amazingly so intact. The wisdom is all there. It's just for us to direct our attention, peace of mind to it, and to try our best to put into practice. Reflecting in this way is very good karma. By the power of such karma, may we be blessed with peace of mind and wisdom, and especially the courage to aspire to at least stream winning in this life itself. By all these good deeds we have done, may our loved ones, those who have been supportive and kind of us, be well and happy. May those who are practicing the Dharma to taste the fruit of awakening in this life itself. And those who are lost and or have difficulties with the teaching find their way back to the true path again in this life itself. May all beings be well and happy. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.